How's it going? There's so many of us in here, so thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. My name is Yong Woo. I'm the Chief Production Officer and one of the co-founders of Second Dinner. Over the last 5 years, I've been responsible for the management of the development team and successful planning and execution of our projects. Second Dinner has been using AWS serverless technology since 2019. And we've learned a lot about how to use AWS serverless technology to develop and operate games over the last 5 years. But before I talk about that, a little bit more about myself. Prior to Second Dinner, I was at Blizzard for almost 10 years and had the privilege to learn from some of the industry's best, working on games like StarCraft 2, Diablo 3, and finally as production director for Hearthstone. Especially in Hearthstone, I learned a lot about how to have a small development team do a lot to achieve global success. At the time of launch, Hearthstone team had only about 15 developers. And it was like the smallest team at Blizzard. With this team, we launched Blizzard's first free-to-play title, Hearthstone, which also later became its first mobile title. My full Korean name is actually Woo Yong-jin. Everybody calls me Young Woo in America. That's my American name. I'm a second-generation Korean American. I lived in Korea when I was like 4 to 9 years old. So it's actually really awesome to be back here. I haven't had a lot of chance to visit Korea since. One of my strongest childhood memory growing up was actually picking up the original copy of StarCraft. And I spent so many hours playing the game on Battle.net. And at the time, knowing that Koreans are sharing in this love for this game with me almost as a national pastime really helped me feel connected to Korea as a Korean. In fact, it's this shared love in many ways that led me down the path of being a game developer. So I have tremendous respect for Korean game developers and gamers. You have done so much for the industry over the past many decades, so it's truly an honor to speak to all of you today. All right, enough about myself. Let's talk about Second Dinner and how we were able to put together our first game as a new, small, independent game studio. We launched MARVEL Snap globally about a year ago on iOS and Android with early access on Steam for PC. It was really gratifying and validating to see MARVEL Snap strike a chord with our players. We were humbled by all the support and recognition, such as Best Mobile Game of the Year at the Game Awards and DICE, along with many other recognitions and many millions of installs and players joining our community. If you haven't heard of MARVEL Snap, please go download it. It's really fun. MARVEL Snap is an innovative digital collectible card game where you play cards that represent the iconic heroes and villains of Marvel Multiverse. You play them on one of 3 locations, and if you win 2 of them, you win the game. Each game is only about 3 to 5 minutes long, so no matter how busy your day gets, you get to sneak in some card-slinging fun. And not only that, you can put together a team simply by pulling together any 12 heroes and villains of Marvel Multiverse, making it one of the most streamlined deck-building experience out there. So go have fun. We also did this crazy thing. We call it the Cube. Borrowed from games like backgammon and poker, you're able to increase the stakes of the game by snapping the cube. And it gives an additional layer of strategy on when you should press your advantage, when you should bluff, and when you should strategically retreat. We put in a lot of time and resource to bring the iconic heroes and villains of Marvel to life, and we're really proud of how we're able to contribute back to the Marvel Multiverse. Second Dinner has been operating MARVEL Snap as a cross-platform, live-operated game now for over a year. We just celebrated, and in fact, we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary this month. Many millions of players have played our game and joined our community. And with official launch of our PC build earlier in August, we welcome many more. All right, so back in 2018, when Hamilton Chu, Ben Brode, I think everybody calls him BB in Korea for some reason. So when the three of us founded Second Dinner in 2018, we didn't even have an office. We were working out of BB's garage. And we were imagining how we could ever develop a brand new award-winning game and share it with millions of players around the world. You have to remember, we were working at Blizzard together for almost 10 years. So just three of us in a garage, it was a really daunting experience. So how do we accomplish this? What was our strategy? Here's a quick spoiler. One of our secret weapons was using AWS serverless technology. Serverless technology allowed us to execute on two of our core strategy, which I'll share with you today. Okay, we like food at Second Dinner, so here's Chef Fudd. This logo is called Fudd. I don't know why, but that's his name. All right, so strategy number one, laser focus. Recognizing what's important and what are distractions was critical to our success. We're obviously a game studio, so we need to make an awesome game. That should be our number one focus. But we're already at least doubling our effort because we're also making a brand new game studio. And we had to attract new talent to make this awesome game. So already we're trying to ride this bicycle to glory and with this huge package. But there's so many more things we could be distracted by. We were tempted to make our own game engine, making a brand new custom engine that works exactly the way we want to. It was really tempting. It was also a huge burden, we realized, if we were to undertake that. Who doesn't want to make their own IP? Making a new IP is super exciting, creating a brand new world and lovable characters. Owning a popular IP can be incredibly powerful for a business. But making a good IP is also extremely challenging and effort-intensive. Most of the time, you put in all this love and resource behind it, and at the end, sadly, nobody cares. Working on a brand new IP adds a huge amount of risk and distraction to making the game itself. A lot of us had experienced self-publishing our games at Blizzard. But again, building a game development team and a publishing team simultaneously while making a game can be a ton of work. And then there's all this new and shiny technology, AR, VR, Web3. It's true that each of those things could have tantalizing rewards, but it's undeniable they also add huge amount of distraction from making the best game. So there are all these things, including esports, which has proven to be an incredibly challenging industry to be successful in. Especially for a small studio with limited resources, it can be disastrous to take on too much burden at the same time while we're trying to do what's important, which is to make an awesome game. It's a lot of stuff I listed. Can you imagine carrying all this? I'm not saying any one of these things are inherently bad. In fact, you need to figure out which of these payload is most important for you. My only point is that if you're trying to do all these things at the same time, you're going to have a really hard time being good at any of it. So how do we choose our focus? At Second Dinner, we searched within ourselves and thought about what we can be the best in the world at. With Snap, we put all of our energy in attracting the best people to build a great studio so that those people can focus on making the best card game experience possible. For everything else, we wanted to minimize our distraction. Are we going to make the best game engine in the world? Let's be honest. No way. There are all these amazing people out there who are spending all their time and energy making game engines. Let's use an established engine. Are we best positioned with our first game to make the best game IP in the world? Again, let's be honest. Nobody's going to care about our IP. Let's instead partner with Marvel and their incredible IP. In these ways, we made sure to ask the question, can we be the best? And being honest about it really helped us to triangulate on what we should be focusing on as a small studio. Back at Blizzard, when I shipped games like StarCraft 2, almost everything had to be done in-house. Much of this is a product of its time, like in 2009, 2010. Like a lot of these components were simply not available in the market. You had to deal with your own hardware. You had to install it. You had to manage your relationship with data center. Everything had to be done in-house and by many, many departments of people. At Second Dinner, we wanted to laser focus on making the best game. And we realized that for everything else, there are amazing partners now available who could do these things. So smart use of AWS serverless technology allowed us to focus on how to make the best game. Not only did we not have to worry about hardware at all, as would be the case with traditional cloud computing, serverless technology meant that we didn't have to worry about operating systems, security updates, and many hours of patching and maintenance. It also meant capacity provisioning and scaling was a breeze and rapidly adaptable by a small number of engineers. AWS serverless technology allowed us to stay focused on building a studio with talent that's focused on making the game incredible. And we're able to spend our time and energy just on the game instead of worrying about infrastructure. At the time of launch, we only had a handful of back-end and infrastructure developers, and they're able to orchestrate the work globally to operate the game for millions of players. So focusing on what we can be the best at was really critical to Second Dinner's strategy, and AWS serverless technology enabled us to do that. Back to Chef Fudd. Let's talk about strategy 2. Right? Our second strategy is hyper-iteration. Right? You got to keep tasting what you cook. At the heart of how we make games at Second Dinner is this: build something playable fast. Play with it as much as possible. Don't stress about getting it right the first many, many times. And instead, focus on learning and growing. Sometimes I see projects that are unable to produce a playable build consistently. Some teams go days, weeks, I've seen months, where they're unable to meaningfully playtest what they're working on. If you can't meaningfully playtest what you're working on, you're driving a truck with your eyes closed. With Marvel Snap, within days of deciding that we're going to make a card game based on the Marvel IP, we immediately got to prototyping. This is one of the earliest prototypes for Marvel Snap. Yes, they're a bunch of scribbles on the back of Ben Brode's old business cards. He didn't have need for them anymore. Within weeks of starting this build, play, get smarter cycle, you can already start seeing something that can be recognized as Marvel Snap come to the surface. The doubling cube that I talked about earlier is represented by this dice. And you can see 3 random locations represented by the horizontal cards. And you see 4 heroes and villains being played on each side of the location. As the idea took shape, we focused on making workflows that allows to come up with new ideas and play with them quickly. By building, playing a lot, we were getting much, much smarter about where the fun can be with Marvel Snap. So, even if you're not working on a card game, and it's not immediately obvious how to paper prototype the game, the point I'm trying to make is to figure out the smallest, fastest thing you can build to play the game. For this loop to be most effective, we have to prioritize getting smarter over getting it right. We need to acknowledge that at the start, you just simply don't know enough to get it right. Don't bother trying. You need to get smarter quickly. Brode recalls how embarrassingly unfun some of the very early paper prototypes were, and how humbling that experience was. And that was okay, because every time we played something new, we got smarter. From 2018 May to end of the year, every day we play tested something new, sometimes multiple times a day. At first in paper prototype and quickly in digital ones. With just 5 people in the studio working for about 6 months, we had a digital multiplayer prototype that has almost all of the rules that you'll see in Marvel Snap today. Concentrating on finding the fun first, like this, and controlling our burn rate by keeping the team small. Finding the fun before we go to production and significantly increasing the size of the team was critical to our success. And that was just the beginning of the build, play, get smarter cycle, starting in 2019 with this prototype in hand. Every 7 to 8 months, we launched our game to a growing player base. First, it started with about 30 volunteers, and eventually, we're managing thousands of players. And so every 6 to 8 months, we would deploy the game to this growing player base, and we would operate the game 30 to 60 days at a time. This not only allowed us to get smarter about what it means to launch and operate Marvel Snap, but it also helped us get in the rhythm of developing and operating the game at the same time. Amazon serverless infrastructure was critical in making this process productive for us. With serverless infrastructure, we could set up every feature development branch in its own environment that's easy to deploy and instantly play testable at scale. Every developer could easily have their own environment that deploys to and operates almost identically to production environment in a super lightweight fashion. This means that pushing to production or even staging is no longer a scary moment where everything can break. Instead, it's part of everyday development. After doing this cycle for multiple years, by the time we globally launched, it became second nature to us. Global launch day felt like just another Tuesday. And we achieved something that I never did at my previous company. We had 0 major incidents during the first 30 days when millions of players were installing and playing the game. Smart use of serverless technology was a huge part of the success. All right, so I shared with you 2 of our core strategies on how we survived and how we thrived as a small independent studio. First, we talked about laser focus. If you take the time to reflect, I believe that you'll realize there's something that only you and your team can share with the world. Focus on that. And for everything else, partner with best-in-class partners like Amazon serverless team, who have been an incredible partners for Second Dinner. And the second strategy is hyper-iteration. Unless you're making the exact same recipe that's been made before, you have to keep tasting as you cook something new. Play testing your game internally as often as you can during development is critical to success. At Second Dinner, we were able to integrate serverless technology to seamlessly tie together development and operational workflows. Being able to instantly play test everything we're working on effortlessly has been critical to our success. All right, it was wonderful to share with you Second Dinner's story with all of you today. I hope our experience is helpful for you in your adventure ahead. If you're curious to learn more about serverless technology, please join us at the breakout session later today. And we'll go into the details. Thank you.